Hey guys, it's Miss Ava, and in this video, I'm going to help you memorize the process for completing the square. So whether this is something that you learned a long time ago and you need a quick refresher on it, or if it's something that maybe you just learned recently, but you're not understanding the process, well, this video should help you with that. In this lesson, I will not be covering how the completing the square process is derived. I'm simply just helping you to memorize the process. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you want to learn how to do is to turn a binomial into a perfect square trinomial. So that's what we're going to do here. And if you remember, the format for trinomials is ax squared plus bx plus c. So I'm just putting that there because I might refer to it occasionally as we go through this. Also, if you haven't downloaded the PDF that we're going through, you can do that. Check the description. I should have a link in there for this PDF and you can follow along as we go. Okay, so this says find the value of c that makes each of these a perfect square trinomial. So here the process for this part is you take that middle number, the b value right here, and you want to divide that by 2 and then square it. That's all, and that will tell you what your c is supposed to be here. So we take the 12 and we divide it by 2, and that gives us 6, and then we have to square the 6. So square these guys, that becomes 36, and so the answer here is c equals 36. This is the number that will make this entire trinomial a perfect square. And what I mean by a perfect square is, in this case, it would be x plus 6 squared. So this right here is equal to x plus 6 squared. The 6 came from the second step after you divide it by 2. So it's the number that you get after you've divided the b value by 2. But you're going to see that again once we get to the process, but I guess I just wanted to show you here as well. So let's do a couple more problems like that just to get what the c is going to be. So here we take the negative 4, we divide it by 2, and then we're going to square it. So in this case, it's going to be a negative 2 and then squared, which just gives us a positive 4. So that means c is equal to positive 4. And then for number 3, same kind of thing. This time you're taking the 5 right here, and we can just leave that as a fraction. So definitely when you're completing the square, you kind of want to get a little comfortable with fractions. But okay, so this is going to be 5 over 2, and then you square that, so that gives you a 25 over 4. And this is your c value in this case, 25 over 4. Okay, so hopefully you kind of understand that part of the process. Now let's get to the actual steps for completing the square. Okay, first thing you want to do is you want to have the x squared by itself, which means that if there's a coefficient with the x squared, you're going to want to factor that out of the first two terms. If you're curious about why we're doing all this, that is in another video that I'll be making or that I may have already made, so check the description if you want to see that one, where I go through all of the explanation for where everything came from. But in this video, we're just cutting right to the chase. I'm just showing you the exact steps and helping you memorize them. Okay, so once again, we take out the 2. That's what we're going to do here. You factor out a 2 from the first two terms right there. That will leave us with an x squared minus 4x. And then you want to add a plus blank right here. And then you close that parentheses, and you're going to copy this minus 3 from the question. And then you're going to include a minus blank. And then you can finish off the rest of the equation with an equals 0. And then over with the minus blank that we wrote here, you're going to want to write down a 2 as well and put the parentheses right here. So I'm going to show you where everything came from. This negative 3 comes from here, and this 2 that I wrote, this has to be the same number that you factored out in the beginning, and it's also the coefficient of the x squared. And then now we are just going to have the blank spaces that we need to fill in. So that's where these come from. Okay, what you do is you're going to take this middle number again, well, the new middle number, and then you're going to do what we did above where we divided it by 2 and then we squared it. So that's what you're going to do now. Negative 4 divided by 2 and then squared. So that will give you a negative 2 and then squared, and then this turns into a positive 4. And so the number that goes in this blank is going to be the positive 4. And then we put it over here as well. Okay, then we are pretty much ready for the complete the square step. What you're going to do is you're going to create this framework, and then you're going to fill in the blanks where they go. So first blank, and then it's going to be an X, and then you'll have another plus blank, close that up, put the square, and then another plus blank. And then you can have the rest of the equation, which is equals 0 right here. So now to fill in all the numbers in this frame right here, what you do, the first number is going to be this 2, and that is this blue guy, the one from right there. Then the next number for this blank is going to be negative 2. And where did I get that from? That came from right here, this negative 2. So this is the step where you have divided the middle number, the b value, by 2. And it's the answer that you get after you divide it by 2. Not the step where you square it, not this one. The step right before, where you have divided it by 2. So that's where that comes from, and you put that right next to the x. And then for the last part, this one, this is going to come from all of this on the outside of the parentheses. So we have to just figure that out on the side. That is going to be a negative 3 minus 2 times 4, which is 8, and that gives us a negative 11. And so that's what I put right here. That's going to be a negative 11. And then let me just clean some of this up right now. I'm going to erase this and just make it a minus 2 like this. And then I'm going to erase this plus sign and just make that a minus 11 right there. And then from here, you can solve the equation by taking the square roots. So you're going to add 11 to both sides, and then you'll get an 11 equals, and then on this side, you'll have a 2x minus 2 squared. Divide both sides by 2, and that will give you, I'm going to run out of space, so I'm going to write over here. That's just going to leave you with an x minus 2 squared equals 11 over 2. And then from here, you can do the square root step where you take the square root of both sides, and then you're left with x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 11 over 2. And then you can add 2 to both sides right here. And so your final answer would just be x equals 2 plus or minus square root of 11 over 2, which you might want to clean this up a little bit as well by rationalizing the denominator. But besides from that, this is the answer. So I'm going to leave this as it is right now, just in case folks watching this are younger and they have not learned about all of this square root stuff. If you have, then hopefully you know what to do. But my main goal in this video, again, is just to teach you the completing the squares. So this is the only problem that we're going to cover where we actually go through and solve all the way. Other than that, I just want to show you how to get to this step right here. So let's do a couple more problems, and hopefully that will help to lock that into your mind. Okay, this one. So here, once again, we want to factor out this 3 from the first 2 terms right here. Okay, so that's going to look like we will have the 3 on the outside, then we'll have x squared, and then plus, and then when you divide this by the 3, that gives you 2 over 3x. And then we have to put a plus blank after that. Then we close the parentheses, and we copy the rest of the equation, which is minus 1. And don't forget the other plus blank that you need right here, and equals 0. So let me highlight where some of these blanks are going to be right there. And then the one thing I'm missing right now is just making sure that I put this 3 on the outside of that second blank. And then also just want to point out, you have to remember that on the inside of the parentheses, it's going to be a positive, and on the outside of the parentheses, it's going to be a negative. So don't do what I just did. Make sure you put the negative right there. Okay, then next step, we take the middle b value here and we divide that by 2. or multiply by 1/2, because that's the same thing. So 2 over 3, and then times 1/2, and then whatever that is going to get squared. So that will be a 1 over 3 after we multiply this, and then when we square it, we get 1 over 9. So this is the number that's going to go in our blank spot right here. 1 over 9, and then same with over here, that becomes 1 over 9. And then now we are pretty much ready to put this into the complete square format. So that's going to be the blank on the outside, open the parentheses, you have your x, and then you're going to have plus blank, close that parentheses, put a square, and then plus blank equals 0. So we just need to fill everything in. The first blank is going to be the 3 right here again. So we put the 3, and then second blank is going to be what we had after we divided the b value by 2. So after it was multiplied by 1/2, which was the 1/3 right here. So I'm going to put that 1/3 over here. And then for the last one, we got to do some math on the side. That's going to be -1 minus 3 and 1 over 9. And when you multiply this part, you can simplify the 3 and the 9 right here. So that'll become a 3. And then you'll have -1 minus 1 over 3, which then can turn into -3 over 3 minus 1 over 3. And so we end up with -4 over 3. Okay, so then we put the -4 over 3 in this blank spot right here, -4 over 3. And I'm just going to erase this and just put the minus right here. Now you'll be able to solve this by the square root method. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do one last problem just for thoroughness. Okay, the first step again was to factor out the coefficient of the x squared from the first two terms. Notice that all of the problems that I'm showing you have a coefficient that is not 1. And I'm doing that on purpose because I want to show you guys the harder problems, and then the easier problems are just easy after that. So if there was no number in the front here, or if it was just a 1, then you really wouldn't have to factor anything, or you could just put a 1 on the outside, but it becomes much easier, those kind of problems. But let's go ahead and do this one though. So we factor out the 2, which leaves us with an x squared plus, and now this is going to turn into 7 over 2x. And then we have the plus blank right here, and close the parentheses, copy down the -4, and create another minus blank to balance out that plus. And then we just have equals 0 again. And then also remember to put this 2 right here on the outside blank, and we can put a parentheses right there. Okay, so now that we have this, we just have to figure out what this blank spot is going to be. We take the 7 over 2 and we multiply that by 1/2, and then we're going to square it. So when you multiply it by 1/2, it turns into 7 over 4, and then we square that and it becomes 49 over 16. So we put the 49 over 16 right here and right here, 49 over 16. And then now we are ready to turn this into the complete the square. So blank x plus blank squared plus blank equals plus blank equals 0. So I'm going to challenge you to pause the video and see if you can fill in all of these blanks now, and then play when you have that all set and see if your answers are correct. Okay, so here we go. First blank is going to be this 2 right there. The second blank is going to be 7 over 4, like this. And then the last blank, we have to do some work on the side. So I'm going to take the -4 minus, it's going to be 2, and then 49 over 16. And we can simplify these two, so it becomes a 1 and an 8, which means now we have -4 minus 49 over 8. And this -4, we can turn that into a -32 over 8. And then this will just be -49 over 8. And when you combine all of that, that should give you a -81 over 8. So that is the number that goes right here, -81 over 8. And I'm just going to change this and put this negative right here. So did you get the right answer? Let me know in the comments if everything was correct when you filled in the blanks here. And that is all we have for this video today, guys. I hope that was helpful. And don't forget to watch the other video that I have on Complete the Square, where I explain in more detail where all of the different parts come from.